Hey Dirt Rangers, Ranger Hayley here, and we're going to go over the Primus stove today. This is the Omnifuel stove, and I opted for the Omnifuel because I prefer to use white gas instead of propane or kerosene. White gas is pretty cheap. You can get a big jug of it for about $7 to $10, and it fills up your fuel tank pretty easily. So I got a huge jug for about $7, and it took maybe a fourth, not even, to fill up our entire fuel bottle. I've now used this fuel bottle, I would say 5 or 6 times to boil water, and I've only used about that much, which is great. You want to keep in mind too that this line, do not fill above this line, because that way it gives room for the pump to go in. So you're not filling this all the way up like you would a normal water bottle. So as you saw in the packaging is really pretty. It designs everything laid out nice and neat for you. However, not everything is shown on where exactly it is. For example, the jet nipples, it mentions the jet nipples for the different types of fuel, but it doesn't actually show you where they're hidden on the stove. So if you take a look right here, these are 2 of the 3 jet nipples. The other one is actually attached on the inside. I've already changed mine to be the proper nipple for white gas, and in order to change it, you're gonna need to take it apart. We found that this top part is supposed to pop off like this, but I was a little nervous about popping it off that way, so I actually just kind of took the spring off the bottom here and then was able to kind of lift like that. So that's how you actually use that, and you're actually going to use the tool that comes with your stove. So it's like a little Swiss Army knife. At the bottom there you have your hex to where that'll fit on top of your jet nipple. You also have in here a piece of wire. It's kind of hard to see. You can kind of see it there. That wire is to clean your jet fuel line. Sometimes it gets clogged, and so it's a great idea to keep it nice and open by kind of inserting that in there and just cleaning it out every now and then. You don't need to do it every time, but I do it every couple of times that I use my stove. So now that I've got this out, I know what this tool does. I'm going to show you guys how to start your fuel and how to start your stove. So once you take it out of the box, the first thing I do, this is not connected. I actually usually don't connect this right away. I usually connect this to the bottle. And one thing that actually makes it a lot easier for me is don't ever leave this connected to your fuel bottle. This is not something that you want to carry around with this in here. There's a possibility of leaking. You also have an O-ring right here that's really delicate. If that leaks at all, then your stove won't work. So I connect it to this line and I get my stove set up, and then I'll connect my fuel bottle at the end. You want to make sure this is on nice and tight. When I first got this stove, there was a piece of paper right here, and it was an inspection sticker. They actually inspect each and every one of these stoves by hand, so that was pretty cool to have on there. It does say do not remove, but I actually did remove it because it was really hard for me to maneuver this around, but I did keep it in my bag that came with it. So the first thing you want to do is open up your stove. There's 3 legs to your stove, so you can open them on up. You can tighten it down if you want using your tool, but I usually use that and then set it down. You'll have to excuse the angles. I'm a little bit out of frame. So we've got our stove, it's open up. The other thing that comes with it is a floor screen in case you're on ground that has pine needles, anything that is flammable. This screen goes underneath your stove. The one thing I'm not a big fan of about these screens is that they're kind of made out of a pretty sharp aluminum. So until they start to wear down a little bit, it makes it a little dangerous for you with your hands. So I've got it on my circle, which I don't necessarily need it because I'm on a table, but I'm gonna do it anyway just for show. And then there's also a windscreen protector. I'm not gonna put that up right now. That goes all the way around and kind of protects the wind from coming in, because I want you to be able to see how I actually light this thing. So our fuel bottle is child-proof. That makes it a little bit Hayley-proof as well. It makes it a little difficult. You do have to push down and turn like a pill bottle. And I'm going to enter this in here. Make sure the threads are lined up. If it's misthreaded at all, it will not work properly. Make sure it's nice and tight, and then I lay it down. I'm going to try and get this all in one frame. Okay, so on your fuel bottle, you'll notice that there is a turn guide. You want to start with that all the way turned closed, and then on this guy, this little lever right here, you want to make sure that it's turned all the way righty-tighty, because we're going to start with pumping our fuel. What we're trying to do is we're trying to pump a bleed line, trying to pump our fuel up into the line itself. And most MSRs and whisper lights take quite a few pumps, but I found that this one, it doesn't take that many pumps, which is nice. Normally you want to pump until you're feeling a little bit of resistance, and then that's usually when you stop. Now, I'm going to open this line just a little bit. Make sure that everything is nice and tight. And then I'm going to open this line a little bit. And what it does is it sprays a little tiny bit of fuel, so now you can see it dripping right there. It sprays a little bit of tiny fuel right into that line. The first thing that it says is that you want to burn it for about 45 seconds. When you're first using this stove, that's actually a pretty good rule of thumb. So I'm going to make sure that I have adequate space, take my lighter, light it up, and you'll see there's a flame there. That flame is going to burn off that extra fuel, and it's going to get this copper pot right here in the middle nice and hot. You really want that because that's what's going to create that whisper sound, and that's what's going to keep your flame going, so you're not just blowing fuel up and into the line. You want to start with a flame so that way the fuel that's being released is very minimal. You'll hear it start to